Hi, it's Hope and welcome to the video. This is the first video that I'm filming of my, what you call it, 2022 wrap-up videos. And this, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, is going to be my 2022 stats. I'm currently sitting at my desk so I can look at my computer because I have my spreadsheet with all my stats that we're going to go through. We're going to go through everything. So I'm going to scooch over here so I can put screenshots of the charts and the graphs and all that over here. I don't know how I'm going to do that, exactly how we're doing this. We'll figure this out as I go. So I guess we'll kind of just go all over the place, I guess. Actually, I think we'll go down. I have them in 3 columns, so I think we'll just go through that. So first we'll just go totals. So I'll pop the chart up here. So total pages read was 80,200, which best reading year ever. I think last year it was around 76,000. Don't quote me on that. I do not remember my exact stats, and I did not post a 2021 stats at the beginning of 2022 because my mental health was kicking me in the ass and I didn't feel like filming that. So my total hours listened was 361 hours and 15 minutes. It says 25 because it's out of 100, but there's only 60 minutes in an hour, so 25 equals 15 minutes, if that makes any sense. It's just how I have to do the stats. Books acquired is 76. Now this isn't actually what I've acquired, this is what I've bought in. I think out of those 74, I think either 6 or 7 haven't arrived because they were orders that just have been delayed or were I purposely knew that they were going to be shipped in 2023, but I purchased them. I feel like I should change that for the new year for books purchased because the books acquired is a little different. Books read 240, my best reading year ever. If somebody would have told me at the beginning of the year I read 240 books, I would have been like, okay, sure. So that kind of blows my mind. And 43 of those books were rereads. I do a lot of rereads, so I'm not that surprised. Obviously, my reading goal was 150, and I technically completed that 160%. Average days to read a book was 6, so that just kind of took the days it took to read books and divide it by however many books I read. Books owned versus books read. Now this is as of the end of the year. I own 217 books. I've read 172 of those books. Unread are 45, so that ends up being 79.26%. Now, my goal for 2023 is to keep it around that number, as in the percentage read. So, fingers crossed I can do that. Now, moving on to months. So this will be each month that I read. So in January, I read 22 books. In February, I read 21 books. In March, I read 20. In April, I read 21. In May, I read 26. June, I read 21. July, I read 17. August, I read 29. September, I read 9. October, I read 17. November, I read 18. And December, I read 19. So as you can see, August was my best reading month, followed by my worst reading month, which was September. I definitely fell into a slump in September. Plus, I was back at school, I was back doing school, so it makes sense. And then we have format. So I read 19 audiobooks, 147 ebooks, 18 mixed. Now, mixed means that I either listened to the audiobook and read it physically, listened to the audiobook, read it ebook, or read it ebook and physically. So just kind of, I read it in more than one format, and I read 56 physical. Now moving on to the audience, or like the age range that the book is targeted towards. So I read 81 adult books, 7 middle grade, 57 new adults, and 94 YA. So YA is my most read like age range, but not by much. I'm kind of slowly shifting away from YA, especially YA romance, which I do not read much of that anymore, and you'll see in my genres what my most read genre is. Where I read books from, so aka where I got them. So 15 books were sent to me directly from the author, as in ebook, or there was one book that was actually sent to me, a physical copy from the author. I read 2 of the BookBox books that I have acquired. I read 1 gift. I read 80 Kindle Unlimited books. I definitely make use of my Kindle Unlimited subscription. I read 59 books from my library, so I also really take use of my library. I read 1 NetGalley book. Don't ask me how many I acquired in the year that I didn't read, because that's embarrassing. Other is 14, owned, which is 51, and then scribd is 17. So types of publication, 109 are traditionally published, 21 are indie published, and 110 are self-published. I really love reading self-published books. Most of the like Kindle books that I read, honestly all of the Kindle books I read pretty much, like the Kindle Unlimited books, are self-published, and then also sometimes I'm able to find self-published books through my library or scribd, and I always try to do that because supporting self-published and indie is, reading those books makes or breaks those authors' careers sometimes, so it's really nice to support them. But then I also like reading traditionally published books because a lot of the books on my radar are traditionally published. And series stats, as in just a brief overview of what types of books I read, how they fit in a series. I will be doing an entire video, well, 2 entire videos actually, about series, as in the series that I finished or DNF'd in 2022, and then the series that I have started going into 2023. So those will be up sometime later this month. I do not know when I'm filming all of these things. I'm just trying to film a bunch of them back to back. So for the series stats, 3 of the books I read were companion novels, 191 were part of the series, and 46 were standalones. I read I read mostly series, and I'm not really that surprised. Now on to ratings. So there's a lot to go through. So I gave 69 books 5 stars. I gave 16 books 4.5 stars. I gave 69 books 4 stars. I gave 32 books 3.5 stars. I gave 36 books 3 stars. I gave 6 books 2.5 stars. I gave 4 books 2 stars and 1 book 1.5 stars, and then I DNF'd 7 books. I do not rate my DNFs, so they are an entirely separate category, but I feel like this is a good amount. A lot of those 5 stars are from rereads. Like, I can tell you 8 of those 5 stars are from me reading Heartstopper, because I read those twice, so that's 8 5 stars right there. And my average rating was a 4.02. So, pretty good. And then now on to genres read. So I read 23 contemporary, 6 dystopian, 15 erotic, 71 fantasy, 17 graphic novels, 2 horror, 2 magical realism, 1 mystery, 14 paranormal, 85 romance, 3 sci-fi, and 1 thriller. So romance is my top read category in 2022, and honestly, I'm not surprised. I've become such a romance reader. I'm shifting away from fantasy a little bit, or reading fantasy romance. So yeah, I actually, tell me why I'm now thinking I should add fantasy romance as a subcategory for 2023 on my spreadsheet, and I'm gonna write that down and do that. So yeah, I'll be doing that after this because I just realized a lot of those fantasies are fantasy romances. Also next year I'm planning on tracking romance and dark romance as two separate things because honestly probably at least half of those romances are actually dark romance. So now moving on to author stats. 189 of the authors that I've read are cis females. 17 of the authors that I read are cis male, 31 are non-binary, and 3 are other. The 3 of other are where there are multiple authors and there are like a male and a female, for example. Next year I do have a category for multiple, meaning that there's multiple authors. I do read mostly books by cis females, and that's something that I do hope to change next year, but I'm at least comfortable with what I've read. A lot of the times I do not look at the author when I'm going into a book, I just go into the story itself, which kind of leads into the author race. 5 of the authors were Black, 4 were Asian, 2 were Latinx, 9 were Middle Eastern, 2 were mixed, 1 was Pacific Islander, 210 were white, and 7 unknown, meaning that nowhere did the author, like the unknown means that nowhere has the author explicitly stated their like ethnicity or race. Author status, 19 were debut, 185 were read before, and 36 were new to me, and I think I probably read about 90 different authors. I don't have that stat for this year. I did figure out how to track that for next year, so that will be a stat for 2023. So yeah, and my most read author, I do know what that is Katee Robert, which no shock there, she's the queen of smut. For publication years, I'm not going to go into the exact percentages, but I'm just going to say the years that I've read books from. So 2009, 2016, 2013, 2014, 2020, 2012, 2017, 2021, 2011, 2019, 2015, 2018, and 2022. My most read year was 2022. I read a lot of new releases, so that makes sense. And then I'm not going to go through the subgenres, but the subgenres are adventure, sci-fi, fantasy, LGBTQ, sports, contemporary, retelling, romance, paranormal, sci-fi, LGBT. Okay, there's LGBT and LGBTQ. I will have to change that. That was my error. Erotic and dark. So, yeah, you can look at the exact statistics. So yeah, that is my 2022 stats. I really hope you enjoyed this video. To keep it simple, let me know how many books you read in 2022 and how many of them you gave 5 stars. I'd love to hear that in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video, which probably will be something to do with either my best or my worst books. I'm not entirely sure. I could be entirely wrong, so do not take that with a grain of salt. But I really hope you enjoyed this video, and bye!